Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today, I am joined by my colleague, Allicnac, also known as Austin. And in this video, we wanted to go over actually two examples of really great trades we executed on Tesla in OBR. One of which being the high at 1,240, just around that area. And then the other low that we just actually caught in this last week, which led to a overall contract gain of over 2,000% as of Wednesday. So Austin, first of all, thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me on, Logan. I appreciate it. Always a good time to be here.
Always happy to have you here.
So yeah, we can talk about Tesla, and I'm going to show you kind of all the confluences that we had to kind of come to the conclusions that we had with me and you and the rest of the server when we made these trades or talked about these trades. So obviously there are a lot of confluences, and I'm going to be going over those. But the main ones that we want to go over first is kind of how did we know to kind of sell the top here at around 1250, right? Because the hype is real for Tesla. You know, we're going very high, like right into price discovery. A lot of people were buying up here thinking that we'd go much higher, right? When you get this vertical price action, a lot of FOMO happens in the market, and you know, people get excited. So there were buyers up here, but how did we know to get out of Tesla up here? And then how did we know to re-enter Tesla down here, right? Well, there's a few reasons, and it's all technically based, right? Yes, is there fundamental reasons for this stuff happening? Absolutely. But you know, I could just use technicals and we would just be just fine, right? Oftentimes, you know, fundamentals can be good, but they can kind of make the path a little less clear. So I mean, when you look at technicals, when you look at price action objectively, to a certain extent, then you can get a lot of valuable information.
And you know, there's that saying that I always say, that controversial saying, technicals lead fundamentals.
Yeah. I mean, it is a very controversial saying, but I mean, I guess we're here to prove ourselves.
Right. Here's a prime example.
Exactly. So what I'm going to start off by doing is just kind of showing how we got to this top here of around 1245, 1250, right? And that's obviously, right, if we go look at the macro view, keep in mind I am on a one-day chart. So if we zoom out here, right, there's a ton of data that we're not acknowledging. You know, Tesla has been around, a tradable company, since 2010. So we're only using data from very recently, right? Just to capture this move that we're kind of experiencing here on a, you know, it is macro, but I would consider it semi-macro, right? We're not looking at something that's been that we're like, you know, decade-long resistance or support. We're just acknowledging stuff that we more or less have been experiencing this year. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using Fibonacci extensions, right? And I believe, Logan, we have many videos talking about the use case of Fibonacci's extensions and retracements. But, you know, in the simplest form, this is a tool based off the Fibonacci sequence that was made by Leonardo Fibonacci hundreds of years ago that relies on the 0.618, right, or the golden ratio. And we'll be able to see here that once we overlay, if we acknowledge our recent top at around, you know, roughly $900, or what is it, 901, with our bottoms, both of our lows actually, down at around 540, as well as what is it, 547, right? We kind of had this correction. We had this almost a double bottom here, but we had all these major peaks here to the upside and to the downside. And when you actually overlay some Fibonacci extensions, you come out with some pretty amazing things, right? And what I'm doing here is I am overlaying, right? I'm lining up my horizontal line here with the top here, and I'm overlaying my Fibonacci extension. And we can see that our 1.618 lies around the 1248 area. And obviously what we can do here is we can go and we can actually isolate this just to make the picture a little bit more clear. And we'll do that as well with the with our retracement. So very beautiful, right? Very clean cut, right? All you have to do is just do that quick extension from this major low, or from this major top to this major low, and you get this 1.618 level at around 1248. You can just also do the same thing, doing it from the same spot right here and dragging it down to this second low, right? And you kind of get a little bit of a cluster. And it gives you a more accurate idea as to where the top could be. And obviously, the top was, I mean, spot on, right? Right at that 1248, 1235 level is exactly where we got rejected from. And obviously, there was a lot of fundamental cases that kind of arose at that time to suggest more downward price action as well. I believe that's when Elon announced that he was selling a bunch of his equity. But nonetheless, pretty amazing here from Leonardo Fibonacci himself, right? Giving us that top ever so cleanly. And obviously, there wasn't as many confluences to the upside as there was to the downside. Obviously, we did have our MACD and our RSI obviously just through the roof. We saw daily crosses on those. We saw our RSI up, at around 94, which is quite insane. So yeah, there's a lot of indication to us telling people that Tesla was quite overbought, and the Fibonacci extensions was really the icing on the cake, and that allowed a lot of people to not only get out of their trades at that time, but also get out of really large equity positions. So very nice place to the upside. What are your thoughts on that, Logan?
I mean, you have it exactly right. I know I didn't use the same exact fib level drawn from your wave A in that correction that you're looking at.
Correct. Yep.
Mine wasn't the exact same level, but we did get the same exact Fibonacci extension level. I was just using a macro impulse wave, but same level was shown, same bounce we saw, and yeah, I think the Elon selling his shares came a little bit later into the second half of that sell-off, wave C.
Was it like right up here? Yeah,
exactly.
I can't really recall exactly where it was, but I know that the moment that Elon came out saying that is the time when all the fundamental and traders started exiting. And that worked. Did that work out? Of course it worked out, right? We still had more downside, but yeah, there was definitely an opportunity to sell higher for sure.
Yeah. Yep. And then it was funny because Elon saying that he was done selling his shares was when we actually got the reversal, which we can go into next.
Right, and that leads to that lovely sentence that you always say, right? Technicals lead fundamentals. And what we're going to be showing here, guys, is just more confluence to believe why Tesla, found a top and found a bottom here, right? And there's many technical reasons for this stuff happening. Obviously, our secondary indicators look great, right? Our MACD is kind of down in the dumps. We're about to be looking for a cross here hopefully soon on the daily. RSI looks to be rebounding. Everything looks to be doing good. You could also throw stochastic or other secondary indicators on there, but that's not really the sauce, right? That's not really what we're looking at here. What we really want to acknowledge is more Fibonacci action and also some moving average action, and in general, some structural price action. So ever since we did go to this top here of around 1240, what is it? What's the exact top? 1248, 1245. We did have an idea that we'd come down and kind of test this structural support, right? Whether it be, we didn't know how long it would be. We just kind of assumed that it would be very healthy for Tesla to do something like this, right? Just like any other equity or financial instrument that you watch, right? When major resistance is broken with an impulsive move to the upside, you will often see that financial instrument come down to test it as support and then continue its way upwards, right? And that's kind of what I expected from Tesla as soon as we reached that 1245, 1250 point. So not only that, right, we had our structural support level. We can keep this here in gray, but we also had a gap to fill as well, right? We also had a gap to fill, giving us more reason to kind of believe that we probably want to end up going down to fill that before Tesla goes up for its next big leg. Okay, so we have two confluences here. Let's actually start laying them out. So we have structural support, right? And then we also have our gap fill, right? Around, right, give or take. And gap fills are kind of interesting, right? They don't always have to fill, but it's just more confluence for us to kind of believe that Tesla will be coming down to this area, right? Gap fill around 909. So we have that, and then what else do we have here? Let's leave this. We also have the 20-week SMA EMA, which I always love to use for deciphering macro times of bullishness or bearishness. It can also identify macro times of consolidation, as we can see here when we're kind of chopping between it. But now that we're on a very trendy macro move, we are starting to respect it as support, right? We can see right here we had it as support, right here we have recognized it as support, and then also right here, right? So this 20-week moving average has been absolutely monumental for Tesla, really since the beginning of summer, including and especially right now. So not only do we have our structural support, our gap fill, but we also have the 20-week SMA, simple moving average, and exponential moving average, which is quite interesting, right? So we have all these things kind of lining up. Now, what's the last thing that I'm kind of leaving out? Oh, and we also have our secondary indicators, right? Which we barely mentioned in the beginning. Secondary indicators. Okay. So we have our four confluences. Our structural support, which is right here, with our green. We had our gap fill, which we did successfully do in our yellow. We also have our 20-week SMA EMA in our yellow line right here, right? We can also change up the difference in color between the EMA and the SMA, just to make people a little bit more clear. So, and then we also have our secondary indicators, right? Like a rather somewhat oversold RSI, and then a MACD that looks like it wants to cross here very soon, that kind of like pivoted at the same point as our structural support. But now when we overlay our Fibonacci retracements, things get quite interesting. Remember that same low that we always speak about, these two lows right here? If you bring them up to our local high, we actually get some quite interesting things. And that is the 0.382 retracement, which is a very popular retracement level. And I'm actually going to have to go here and apply the 0.382. Boom, right? And that lines up right where we got bought up, right below the gap fill at 906, right lined up with structural support. We can actually make this nice and gray so we can kind of decipher the difference. But yeah, we have our 0.382 lined up there, as well as structural support, as well as the gap fill, as well as the 20-week, as well as our secondary indicators being oversold, right? So there's just all of a sudden just a boatload of things kind of just being thrown at our face, telling us that Tesla's going to reverse. And I believe we also have this kind of showing itself here as well, Logan, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
right?
with the 127.2.
Yeah. The 127.2, where's my 127.2? There it is, yes, okay. And we can isolate this, of course, right?
I think you just got rid of it.
Yeah, oh, okay. Well, nonetheless, it doesn't matter, right? We just had
Yeah.
more confluence, more Fibonacci. It was actually a Fibonacci extension from this bottom of our correction here to the top. If you extend that to the downside, you will see that the 1.72, another very prominent Fibonacci level, kind of resides in that same area of support. So we have just so many confluences, right? I was listing all these confluences out for you guys. And when you have that many things lining up, all kind of suggesting the same thing, it really makes for a wonderful trade. And that's kind of what we saw play out here. And I'm sure Logan can agree.
Yeah,
right?
and the best part was that wasn't even all of them. You just had 4 listed out, but I could also name the break of resistance we saw, the bullish
Right.
engulfing hammer candle we saw.
Oh, let's talk about that. That's a wonderful one, right? So other than all these secondary indicators, and that's on the 4-hour chart, I believe.
Yes.
If we go look at that, this is badass. Yeah, this is super cool. And Tesla likes doing this, right? Tesla likes doing this. It likes identifying bottoms this way. But we can see the candle anatomy gets quite aggressive, right, with buys here and as well as buys here. And this kind of identifies these local bottoms for us, right? We didn't so much get it up here, but right here and right here on the 4-hour chart is very, very prominent. So that would just be more confluence to adding to the bullish reason,
Yeah,
right? And it's quite interesting. Tesla is a very systematic setup, and it played out quite nicely.
It played out beautifully.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Of course. So yeah, I mean, obviously, is Tesla out of the woods yet? Well, I mean, we have a lot of reason to think it is, but at the same time, I really want to see Tesla kind of get above this resistance line right here. And this is very, very simple, right? Just kind of structural resistance. I do want to see it get out of that. I want to see it make a higher high, right? So far, we've just been making lower lows, right? Assuming that this is one, right? Lower highs, and then our lower lows are right here, obviously. So Tesla, by definition, is still on a downtrend.
Yeah.
But there is definitely confluence to believe that Tesla will break this downtrend and kind of start its next leg up, right? Keep in mind the next confluence, right, that we didn't talk about, that I said I was going to leave out of this, is our Elliott Wave, right? We do think that, right, we are going to be going up here for a fifth wave, right? And that would make sense that we do break this resistance right here and carry onward, right? And then where would the target be to the fifth wave? Well, just by simply quickly doing this, if I am going to line up the 1.618, do the extension from the top to the bottom, then we get a price target of roughly 1533. Is that possible for Tesla? Absolutely, in my opinion, absolutely. Especially if we do have an aggressive wave 5 here, and the market does want to turn around and flip bullish, and obviously that Tesla hype comes back. We get a lot of retail, we got a lot of institutions in there buying. Tesla can absolutely go higher. We just need to wait for confirmation. But nonetheless, if you enter down here with all these confluences, you're more than safe in any long positions regarding, options or equity, right?
Yeah.
Whatever you're really playing with it. So
Definitely.
Yeah, it provided a great opportunity.
There's not a lot of trades that scream at you, and this last week I was telling everybody to sit on their hands, be very patient, wait for the trades that are grabbing you by the collar and spitting in your face because they're yelling at you. And this was one of those trades. This was very much one of those trades.
And they don't come around very often, and it can get frustrating, right? If you're a trader on this market and you're waiting for these immaculate opportunities, like we were saying, me and Logan were talking, right? How often do you see an opportunity where like you have 7+ confluences on one of the big, like on an equity like Tesla, right? It kind of identifying the bottom. It doesn't happen very often. So this is a quite an amazing trade that happened. And will Tesla provide more opportunities like this in the future? I'm sure, right? It's very systematic. It very much reacts off of its structural support, right? It very much seems to be in a very aggressive impulse wave. So I do think that it will remain rather predictive, right? Tesla's not really, it's never really in the dark with us, right? Would you say that's a good way to put it?
I think that's a very good way to put it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tesla, there it is. Wonderful setup for trade. Many confluences, many reasons to believe that was the bottom. Now, I will say, right, I will play devil's advocate. If we do get rejected from this top trend line right here that I'm going to be highlighting in red, I do think that there is reason to believe that we could go down lower. And let me just put out the point. And that's because of this right here, right? If we do a Fibonacci cluster here, considering the local bottoms and the local tops, yes, we did get a bounce off the 0.382. But in Fibonacci, right, the retracements levels are usually between the 0.382 and the 0.618. So if we do continue to recognize this downwards resistance, it really would not surprise me, right, to just kind of really fool the market and really catch a lot of people off guard to see Tesla make a newer low kind of down in this retracement zone. And if that happens, I will certainly be buying. And that doesn't take away from this trade that happened here, because we definitely did acknowledge it as support, and we acknowledged all those confluence, and we managed to get a really hefty 21% bounce off of an equity that's has over $1 trillion market cap. So it's quite remarkable. Yeah. Tesla's not out of the woods yet. I do think it could come down lower, but the odds of that happening are slim, in my opinion. So
awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Austin, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, Logan. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.